Hello Movie Mavens, welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. I hope you're having a good week. I'm having a good week. It's just been really busy. I can't believe that we're already halfway through September. That is wild to me. But I mean, I'm also excited because it means we're that much closer to October, which y'all know is my favorite month of the year. And there's so much good horror content coming out. You know, like just that first few days of October, we have season premiere of Dracula. We have Salem's Lot. We have the new VHS Beyond. We have just so much good horror content coming out. I'm so excited. So I don't know about y'all, but even though it's crazy that we're already over halfway through September, I'm ready for October. Just a heads up in advance, this is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter video than usual, just because I'm recording a little bit earlier than we usually do, so I'm sure the minute that I schedule this video, every single analog horror series that we love is going to upload an update. That's usually how it works, but that's okay. I promise that we will cover them next week or in an upcoming video, so don't you worry. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with today's blog roundup. So if you're new to the channel, first of all, hi, hello. And just to kind of give you some background, the B Movies channel is a continuation of the B Movies blog that I run with my friend Elliot, who is the editor, my collaborator, my partner in crime. And we post new pieces every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and at just bmovies.blog. And that link will always be in the description box below. So, to kick us off, on Monday, we did a spotlight on Dan Stevens. You'll know, I think he is one of the most attractive men alive. Love him. Get to go see The Guest on the big screen next month, so I'm super stoked. So there's a spotlight on him. On Tuesday, we talked about covers that I think are better than the original songs. Some are controversial. I feel like some aren't. But either way, that's just my little opinion. On Wednesday, we talked about true crime and true crime adjacent movies. And again, I would like to say, like, some of these movies, like, for example, All Good Things, just because they are dramatized, like, that should not take away from the heinous and brutal crimes that some of these people committed. And then on Thursday, we talked about, well, we launched a new series called Internet Oddities. Yes, we're back at it again with another new series that's just going to kind of talk about internet mysteries and just little odds and ends of weird things on the internet that I like. And so the first one is up, and it's about Zepotha. Okay, I'm sorry, Movie Mavens, for the second time in a row. My laptop just stopped recording. So getting a little freaked out. It's fine. Woof. So to pick up where we were, on Thursday, we launched our new series, Internet Oddities, where we talked about Zepotha. Yes, we're back at it again with another series of the 1984 cult horror movie that wasn't. And then on Friday, we talked about scary books I loved as a kid, like Goosebumps, Fear Street, Invasion of the Lawn Weenies, all of those classics. So just to recap, this week over on the B Movies blog, there's a Dan Stevens spotlight. Covers I think are better than the originals, true crime and true crime adjacent movies, Internet Oddities with Zepotha, and scary books I loved as a kid. So next up, let's go ahead and do our Bite Size Sunday teaser trailer. Again, if you're new, Bite Size Sundays are little reviews that live over on our Instagram, which is at bmovies_channel, same as our YouTube. And their content, they include content that I want to talk about, but I might not necessarily have enough to say about them for a full piece, but I still want to talk about them. And those usually drop around 8 or 9 Central Standard Time. And again, those only live on our Instagram. You can't find them on the B Movies blog. So the hint this week, which you can only get on YouTube, it's a perk to subscribing to our YouTube channel, is Close Enough, Welcome Back, Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm really excited to talk about this one. I love this piece of content, and I'm just really excited to get into it. So now, let's go ahead and dive into today's deep dive. So of course, let's talk about Zepotha, because we have the new Internet Oddities series, and this one is really fascinating to me. So I first heard about Zepotha in one of Loey Lane's Scary Side of TikTok videos. I'll link the video below. And I was immediately fascinated by this concept. Like, we all know I'm all for guerrilla marketing, and I think this is a prime example of doing it well. But let's take it back, because you may be wondering, what is Zepotha? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably scratching your head and being like, this girl is throwing way too much info at me. So let's take it back to 2023. So last year, TikTok users started making videos recounting plot details about a horror movie from 1984 called Zepotha, with one of my favorites being from a user called Monday Hates You Too, wherein people were recalling the plot details of this movie in really like great detail that allegedly just had a cult following / was a piece of lost media. And people were also like commenting on TikToks and like telling the creators that they looked like certain characters from the film or like gave off that energy. And so long story short, the story of Zepotha began spreading like crazy around the internet, with some people believing it may be an example of the Mandela effect, others believing it was another crazy case of lost media. However, neither one of those things are true. In fact, Zepotha never existed. The entire idea was cooked up by musician Emily Jeffrey to promote her new album, which was fittingly enough titled Soundtrack for an 80s Horror Movie. And I actually listened to it this morning. It's really good. So in her original TikTok, she pitched the idea for Zepotha, like, what if we did this bit where, like, we talked about a 1980s horror movie that doesn't exist? And, like, talked about the plot and the characters and the details, but again, this movie is fictional. And in the background of that TikTok, she actually clipped one of her songs from this upcoming album, which, in my opinion, I think that was genius. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of the big criticisms about this campaign, and I think that the feeling is valid. It did upset some people because some people with certain mental illnesses or just it's symptoms of some diseases, things like that, have a hard time distinguishing reality from fiction, so it was difficult for them to tell whether or not this movie was real, and so this hoax did upset people. And the same criticisms were made for another fake film that's famous on Tumblr, called, I think it's Goncharov. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And we'll actually get into it in another piece. But the same criticism was made for that, and I think that's more than fair. I definitely see how this could be confusing for people or could cause people distress, and I don't want to take away from that. For someone like me that works in marketing, I think this is a great marketing tactic. But again, I think the criticisms are more than valid. Fully. So just in my opinion, I think it was really interesting to see how creative people got when like talking about the plot and the characters of this film, as well as like how many people just hopped on board to be a part of Emily's idea. And it was really cool because Emily actually held a Zepotha film competition with, I think, a 500-pound prize, and has said that she wants to do like an entire Zepotha themed album sometime in the future. So overall, in my opinion, I think it's a really cool creation that was part viral marketing and part social media experiment. Again, think the criticisms are also valid. But yeah, so you can read the full piece about Zepotha over on the bmovies channel, or over on the bmovies blog. Hi, hello, forgot where I was for a second. And all of the pieces for this week, including this one, will be linked below. So next up, let's dive into special features, which is, again, another perk of subscribing to the YouTube channel, because this is the part where we talk about things I may not necessarily talk about for Bite Size Sunday or in a piece, and it's also reserved for updates on our favorite analog horror series and horror ARGs. So to start off, let's talk about Casa Bonita, Amor. And honestly, this was a wild card for me. I just thought it looked interesting, and I had 20 minutes after I saw my old ass, and so I went for it. And I have to say that I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. And so for those who don't know, Casa Bonita, Amor is based on when it follows rather. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, bought Casa Bonita after it had really fallen into disrepair after the pandemic. They bought it out of bankruptcy and fully restored it. And so it was really interesting to me because, like, you learn all about the history of Casa Bonita. And it was just really cool to watch them restore something that meant so much to so many people and themselves. And I'm not really a big South Park fan, but I really enjoyed it. And, like, obviously, are there a couple jokes in it that are questionable? Yeah. Like, you can't expect there not to be given the parties involved. But overall, I would really recommend it. It's really fun, and it's just a really fun and enjoyable documentary. So I would definitely check it out if you can. Next up, we have the East Patch has dropped the 3rd episode of this Angel Hare arc, entitled Reformatting. And so the video, like its predecessors, starts immediately where we left off in the 2nd video. A character in the game says that they understand this is someone's last day, which we can assume that they're talking to Segan. And then says that they hope he's a good friend when he returns. But this makes Jonah question whether this is about him or Segan, like who this character is talking to. So then we get a little paladin on the screen, and he tells us that he's happy we've returned. And then the king tells us that he's surprised to see us. And the king asks if they, who we can now presume is Jonah, have finally come back to help. And then Jonah talks about how he feels different, like talking to this game, even though he talked to, the characters on Angel Hare and, talks to Zag. And then the king tells us that we need to go into town to find the jester, and says he's responsible for why the princess, and then trails off. Jonah inputs, because this is an old school game, so he types and inputs to ask about the princess, but the king is then replaced by Hyrax, who looked like, I'm not 100% sure what kind of animal Hyrax is, but he's replaced, but that's the title character of the game. And he also says that we need to build more trust with the king first. So then Zag appears as the paladin and asks if Cam is actually going to come out and talk to them. And then we learn that Gabby is the rogue, and she and Cam begin their little banter back and forth, their little bickering. And Gabby says that, like, let's help them and then we'll talk. And of course, Zag is impatient about the whole thing. So Jonah then says they might not actually have to run around because games that are older have basically workarounds, glitches, things like that. And so we cut back to the same gamer that we saw in the first video that Segan made. And Jonah watches how to bypass the fact that the characters are dodging them. And so then they head to the cave to save the princess. As the trio heads to the cave, they find that the jester is gone. And I'm pretty sure that Cam is the jester, but there was also mention of Cam's helper. But I think that Cam is the jester. But either way, as Zach said, this ain't good. Because someone crucial is missing here. I can't rave more about the East Patch. You'll know that I love it. I always rave about them. The animation, just everything is so incredible. So I will link this video in their channel below, but I'm going to have to beg all of you to go watch this immediately because it's so good. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is one where as soon as I get a notification, I am pausing what I'm doing if I can and immediately watching it. So lastly, let's go into our subtitles for this week, aka just fun little pieces of news from around the internet. This is one of the wildest things, I'm going to say this is one of the wildest things that I thought I would ever read. Playing with Fire, a theater concept album inspired by Frankenstein, is on the way from J.Z. Chazé. Which also cracks me up because J.Z. Chazé is the name that the animal center I got my dog from, one of my dogs, Sadie, from, that's what they had her listed as, so that's just a fun fact. So that's a wild sentiment. Charlie Hunnam will be playing Ed Gein in the next season of Ryan Murphy's Monster series. The podcast Full Body Chills will be returning October 1st with a massive 18-episode season. I believe they're going to divide its 6 episodes per theme. The first theme is circus, which I'm excited about. I really look forward to Full Body Chills. I really, really like it. A Sims movie, like a live-action Sims movie, is on the way from Kate Herron, who directed Loki. with Margot Robbie confirmed in the cast. So, like, you go, girl. You hit all those adaptations of toys. Sci-Fi has announced a new series based on the comic series Revival with Aaron B. Kuntz as a showrunner, which makes me very excited. Big fan of his. The first trailer for Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 has dropped. Super pumped for this one. I think the trailer looks great. Big RPAT fan. Really stoked to see where this goes because it looks like a comedy? ? And the concept I think is really fascinating. A new horror anthology series called Deepest Darkest has been announced with people like Phil Lamar, Rosario Dawson, Ernie Hudson, and others attached to appear in episodes, so very excited for that. Shudder has announced that Oddity will drop on Friday, September 27th. I really wanted to catch it in theaters, but sometimes with the Shudder theatrical runs, they just run at really weird times or like really late times, and it just never worked out, so I'm really excited to catch it. Sean Keller has announced that the next Killer Sounds of Halloween album will drop October 1st. It's called Killer Sounds of Halloween's The Final Chapter. Looking forward to that. And finally, Paramount has announced a new horror movie called Spin the Bottle that is based on the game Spin the Bottle, starring Ali Larder and Justin Long. I watched the trailer. It looks very silly, but am I still going to watch it? Yes, I am. So, I think that will actually do it for us this week. Again, I know it's a little bit shorter of a video, but there's just not a lot shaken this week. But again, if anything comes out after I'm done recording, we'll talk about it. So, as always, follow us on Instagram at bmovies_channel. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Feel free to follow Elliot at reading.with.red. Oh, I have to sneeze. Sorry, y'all. Excuse me. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. It's free. Give us a like if you feel so inclined, and leave a comment if you are feeling frisky. Again, thank you so much for your patience over the past couple weeks because things have been a little nutty and the release schedule's been a little bit off. So on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.